We're gonna start with 1 cup of almond flour. Just as I always say, you do not, with any flour, you don't wanna press it against the sides of the container to get out your flour. A lot of people like to pack it super tight in there, but specifically with flours, you don't want that because you're gonna end up with way more than you end up needing for the actual recipe. Then we can add our cocoa powder. Now, of course, these are keto and most cocoa powders are unsweetened. So we're just gonna add some unsweetened cocoa powder, 1/3 of a cup. And Amber needs to open. Why? Why does it get stuck like this? Okay, I had to open the other container. Sometimes there's lumps and it's okay. You can just kind of break them up with your, what is this? A whisk. We'll break it up when everything is nice and combined. This is why we do our wet in one bowl and our dry in another. And remember, this is a keto recipe, but you can always un-ketofy it. Now, the one thing I do not recommend changing to a regular ingredient is the almond flour. The almond flour is, of course, not flour at all. It's just ground up almonds and ground up nuts. So with that, almond flour and a lot of other like specialty flours, so like cassava flour, coconut flour, all of those things, they are drier of a flour. So this is so much talk of flour. Regular flour can absorb, just a regular amount of liquid. Almond flour, usually the amount of wet ingredients are a lot more than dry ingredients just because it needs to absorb so much moisture to not taste powdery. Then we can add 1 teaspoon of some baking powder. Please do not mind all of the helicopters flying over my house. Okay, now let's talk sweetener for this as I have all of these ingredients on my hands. I'm just using, this is the Lakanto monk fruit sweetener. I will tell you, this does not taste like sugar. Let me just scratch all of this. This is what we're gonna use for the keto version. Now, like I said, if you wanted to un-ketofy this but still use the almond flour, you can use white sugar. This one is a 1-to-1 replacement. Now, this bag they had sent me a while ago, but I will tell you, if you are not on keto, the first time you try this, it tastes like, I would have to put like a bunch of peach emojis all over the screen because that's what it tastes like. Not peaches, if you guys can read between the lines here. This, to me, is just not my favorite, but for keto desserts, it works. People who are on keto love this. And one thing about this too, this is so expensive. Like, to eat keto, I swear to you guys, or if you guys ever go to like a bakery and you order keto products and you're like, damn, this is expensive. All of the ingredients cost so much more. Like a 10-pound bag of flour is like $1.75, $2 over here. And I don't even know about a 10-pound bag, but I just paid for a 4-pound bag, or was it a 3-pound bag? It was $13.44. That's a big difference. So like I said, 1-to-1 replacement. So this is 1 cup of the monk fruit sweetener. You could use regular sugar as well. And of course, everything is just so lumpy. Thank you, Texas Heat, for making all of my stuff lumpy. Okay, now we can pour this in. Okay, I went in with my fingers just to make sure that there were no big lumps. Now, of course, you guys can still see a couple of them. Cocoa powder is kind of hard to get out of the lumps, but you just wanna make sure you don't have no gigantic lumps of sugar. Then, of course, every dessert needs a little bit of salt. We're gonna add a couple of cracks of some salt. Then for our wet ingredients, 2 ingredients. I have 1 stick of butter, which is 1/2 cup of some melted butter. Just melted it in the microwave, and you wanna make sure that you let it cool for a little bit, not completely cold, but a good little hack is to melt it in the microwave and then pop it in the fridge for like 2 minutes while you work on everything else. Then to the butter, we're gonna add 3 eggs. So the reason I mentioned cooling it off is because we're gonna add these together. You do not want to scramble your eggs with hot butter. Can any of you guys hear the movie going on in the background that Roman's watching? Okay, so because of copyright, I won't be able to like show you guys what he's watching, but let me know if the phrase Silenzio Bruno means anything to you. Now we can give this a mix. I always say pop the yolks and then kind of incorporate it. I am like notorious, I swear to you guys, for using the smallest bowls every time for it. And like, I know what ingredients I need, but I always just assume that it's gonna work, which, I mean, technically it is working. Okay, this is pretty good. We'll work out all the little kinks of it. then wet into dry. Remember, just make sure, got everything, and then pour it in. Then we can just whisk this together. I almost said whisk it, but I always tell you guys every time, but if this is your first video watching, hello. But I always tell you guys with almond flour, you have to let it hydrate. Almond flour is, like I said, ground up nuts, whether you're using it in sweet or savory. Okay, my camera very rudely thought it would be nice to just stop recording and cut me off. So by sweet desserts, I obviously mean, well, desserts. And then by savory, a lot of the times whenever people are making like meatballs or burger patties, they like to have some type of like moisture keeper binder in there. So they'll do white bread soaked in milk or water. And for keto versions, they do almond flour, once again, soaked with either milk or water. So you need to let it hydrate. A lot of the times whenever you end up with a keto dessert or a dessert specifically baked with almond flour, a lot of the times it's very powdery and it falls apart. It's very crumbly whenever you go to lift it off of the, off of the spatula on your baking tray. However, it just falls apart and it ends up being a big mess. A lot of the times people don't let it sit like wet like this and let it hydrate. And then also when it's done out of the oven, it needs to cool twice as long as a dessert that is not baked with regular ingredients. So if you were to let your cookies maybe sit on the tray for like 2 minutes and then take them off, these ones you want to let them sit 4 minutes. Or if you let your cake rest for 30 minutes before you start cutting into it, you want to let it rest an hour. So do you guys hear this? Do you guys hear all this engine revving? It is 11 in the morning. Where are you going that you are revving so loud? Why? Can somebody else let me know? Do you guys hear all of the outside noise from the vent above your oven, like your oven hood? Why does mine do that? You guys always hear the birds, which the birds are nice. The cars, yeah. So I just turned my oven to 350, so we're just waiting for that to preheat. I completely forgot to do it while I was making the batter. But I just wanted to show you guys, this is the 8.29 ounces bag, and it was brand new. I think I had taken out like a teaspoon of it, so, you know, give or take a teaspoon because the package is obviously already open. I used 1 cup of this, and I'm just showing you guys if you guys plan on buying this in the store, or if you guys plan on buying this on their website. Like I said, it is very expensive. You can always use the store brand of a monk fruit sweetener and it is a lot cheaper. This is not sponsored clearly whatsoever because this is ridiculous. I swear to you, if you wanted to go like full blown keto or gluten-free or this or that, you need to take out like a loan or get like a second job for this. This stuff is so expensive. Oh my goodness. But okay, so if you guys were to buy this, I took out 1 cup and there's probably like a 1/4 cup left. I just thought I'd show you guys like real life because, you know, you'll look at like an 8-ounce bag and you're like, oh, okay. Yeah, this you can make 1 1/4 desserts. While we wait for our oven, obviously I should put them in a pan because I'm not going to bake them in the bowl. I'm just using some spray oil, so some Pam here, and I'm just going to coat this. These are for a friend, so that is why I'm using a little aluminum thing. And this is also in 8 by 8. So depending on how you like them, this brownie is going to be pretty fudgy, but the pan, the height and the depth that you have your pan kind of also determines how well they're gonna cook. So if you have a pan that is a little bit higher and not as, wide, then obviously you're gonna have to cook them for longer because the inside would still be raw or fudgy. So it just kind of depends on how you like it. I think an 8 by 8, it's typically a brownie pan, so I think this works perfectly. Then when you can tell, like, so if you guys are wondering, how do I know if it's hydrated properly or not? When it resembles like a non-pourable consistency and it's just kind of, how do I explain this? Like cookie dough-ish, that's when you know everything is good. Now that we have our brownies nice and portioned in here, I will say these are definitely, because of them being in an 8 by 8, they are going to be thinner brownies. And of course they're gonna rise a little bit, but they are thinner. Oh my God, my voice. But if you were to use a 6 by 6 pan or just a smaller pan, then your brownies will be higher. And I know you guys are waiting for final product shot. I completely forgot to record that. But if you guys see the thumbnail, they came out great and they look really good too.